Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Melanie Dizon. I'm the Director of Education and Content at the Davis Phinney Foundation, and I'm excited to be here today with Diane Cook from PD Self. Hi, Diane. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to talk about the really great work that you do. So can you tell us a little bit about PD Self? Why did you start it? What was your experience beforehand? And then were there any guiding principles that you thought were really important for starting the program?
Okay, well, let me launch by saying that it was 2010, and I attended the World Parkinson's Congress in Scotland, and I had been diagnosed 2 years earlier, and I heard Lisa Schulman from the University of Maryland talk about the determinants of quality of life in Parkinson's disease. And her research, the conclusion she came to was that self-efficacy was the strongest determinant of quality of life. And that was the first time I had heard the word self-efficacy. And I thought it struck a chord in me, and I thought, if this self-efficacy is so important, can we teach it? So that started my research, which went on for about a year, and it finally led me to Dr. Albert Bandura at Stanford University, the father of self-efficacy and a professor of psychology. In fact, he's one of the foremost renowned psychologists of the 20th century. And he has written tomes on self-efficacy, tens of thousands of pages, which I worked my way through over the course of a year, and realized in the end that there weren't many programs available, either for newly diagnosed patients at that time, or certainly no self-efficacy programs. And I think we still are the only one in the Parkinson's arena. There were certainly a lot of national organizations who provide incredible wealth of information, but this was a little bit different. And I thought it was something that needed a new program for. So my focus was clear. And at that point, it was a question of now, how do I start it? So I went to my movement disorder specialist and explained what I wanted to do. He said yes. And then over the next year, I created the 9-month curriculum. Now we no longer do it in 9 months because life has gotten busier since then. It's now 4 months, but it's a long curriculum. And he helped me secure funding from the Colorado Neurological Institute, and which gave us money to design and conduct actually a clinical trial. He served as principal investigator, and I was the co-investigator. And we were off and running with an intervention group and a control group. And at the end, the results were good. We found that there was an increase in the breadth of self-efficacy behaviors and skills across the board, which really helped with disease management. But there was also less anxiety, less stress, more appreciation of support, less intrusiveness of illness, the kinds of things that we were in fact looking for. And then we did another assessment at 1 year, and that showed the same thing, but more hope, less anxiety, better sleep, and self-efficacy improved. And then at 4 years, many of these same things were still in the same scale, despite the fact that the physical functioning had declined, which is expected with Parkinson's, but it made it even more important that they were able to maintain the benefits over that period of time. And then kind of at the end of this cycle, we were fortunate to have the Parkinson's Disease Foundation, now PF, take us on as a pilot project. And so we were able to start in 18 communities across the US. So I think the last part of your question was guiding principles.
Mhm.
Yes, we do have guiding principles and we still use them. We felt we needed to be based on validated science so that our participants and also our funders would have confidence in the program. We stay very close to what Dr. Bandura suggested in all of his writings in terms of what one does to increase self-efficacy. We always administer pre and post assessments so that we can make sure the standard of quality is maintained at scale, across so many different communities. We have a feedback loop from the participant to the facilitator to the, well, now it is the chief learning officer, to make sure that, or in your case would be yourself, to make sure that all of that, all the changing needs, both of kind of instructional techniques and content, are incorporated annually into the curriculum. And we do use a resources committee of patients to review new material that comes out so that we're choosing new material based on actual patients reading it and deciding that it's at the right level, level of interest. So that's how those are the guiding principles.
Great.
I think that may be the end of your first question.
Yeah, it's perfect. So can you tell people that may be new to the term, what is self-efficacy exactly? And then what are some of the things that, somebody with self-efficacy who has Parkinson's, how do they look different than someone who does not have that?
Well, self-efficacy is hard, is kind of hard to grasp. But if you look at the words self and efficacy, just take those two words. Self pertains to yourself, and efficacy is its effect on something. So if you take them together, self-efficacy, it is an effect of something on yourself.
Yeah, so it's pretty much our belief in our ability to make something happen, to get something done. I feel that I have self-efficacy maybe in my job or as a parent or something like that. It's our belief in our ability to affect something, change something, change as a human being in our behaviors, that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. And there are certain ways that you can learn it. And once again, we followed Bandura pretty closely. He suggests 4 ways. One of the ways is learning through setting goals and achieving them. You build a level of confidence and belief in your ability to make change, affect change. The second is learning through observing successful models. So in our programs, oftentimes the facilitator is a good example of a successful model of someone who's learned how to manage their Parkinson's well. And learning, and obviously Davis Phinney is a fantastic example of extraordinary self in doing what he's been able to do. And we're very fortunate to have his model, on display for the rest of us who benefit from him. And we also learn through the encouragement and support of others. And this occurs in the classroom or on Zoom when we encourage our peers and our fellow Parkinson's patients to stay at it. And then we also learn through interpreting physiological feedback. And that's an area which we haven't really fully appreciated until this recent year. And it's now called something else. Now it's called introspection. And it's become the topic of many psychological conferences, amazingly enough. But what it is the ability to interpret the signals that your body is giving you, so that if you are, and to interpret it correctly in the case of self-efficacy. So if you are giving a presentation and you find yourself shaking, you can interpret that as being extra energy that you can use to be more effective, or you can interpret that as being ready to fail. So the interpretation of it is actually what is the mechanism that either increases self-efficacy or decreases it. What are some of the things that you see in a self-efficacious person? See a sense of confidence. They're willing to take on a challenge instead of avoid any kind of difficult task. They often look at the future with hope and optimism, but with a sense of reality, tempered by reality. Very much different from the positive movement that says you just have to think positively in order to have positive results. The self-efficacious person knows that you have to have actions that stand behind your goals in order to make change and to make things happen.
Actions precede thoughts and feelings, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, a self-efficacious person will have the internal belief that they can actually make a change in some of the conditions that affect their lives, which is really important for us as Parkinson's patients, because we can't affect necessarily the ultimate outcome, but we can affect a lot of the things at the margin. They can make our journey a lot easier, and it may even help us slow the progression somewhat, because we're making the right choices based on, intelligence that's coming from the right sources. So,
right. And so I would think, people who are with Parkinson's, who have self-efficacy, or also have a lot of resilience, because, they may have tried something and it didn't work. And instead of saying, well, done, they're going to figure out another way, right? They're just going to find another path. And then each time they find that path, and each time they get sort of knocked down and find a path to get them there, they get even more self-efficacy, more resilience. And it just kind of snowballs, because it's hard to go back, right? Once you feel that amazing feeling of, wow, I tried to do something and it didn't work, and I tried something else, and oh my gosh, this worked unbelievably well. And I'm going to keep doing that, right? Like you're less likely to peter out the next time it doesn't work.
Exactly. And resilience and tenacity and is so important.
Yeah.
Especially we found dealing with a lot of the non-motor symptoms, that it takes repeated attempts to figure out what is going on and what you do about it. And oftentimes the first specialist you see isn't necessarily that cognizant of the issues related to the Parkinson's. They may be related to the GI distress or the itchy skin, but to combine it with the Parkinson's knowledge is hard to find in the specialist.
Yeah.
So we call it dynamic inquiry. It's the whole process of continually going back until you get it solved. And when you get it solved, it actually has an impact on your quality of life, because if you do not have this tenacity, you're often living with many conditions that you could have made a little bit better for yourself.
Yeah. And so in that way, it's sort of a muscle that you can keep practicing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And the other
go ahead.
thing is this whole system of setting goals so that you understand the process under which a goal is achieved. So, you have your first action, really, which is your intention. It's your decision to do something, and that's your intention. The second thing is your attitude, which affects your ability to stay with it. And then the third is your choice of behaviors. So what do you do in terms of small actions to achieve the goal? So if you understand that it's not just setting the goal and then, kind of doing random things to get there, that if it is a system which has been worked out psychologically to make sure to make things possible to accomplish that you might not be able to otherwise.
Oh yeah, that's great. We're going to talk a little bit about your program for sure, but I'm wondering if I'm assuming that you've had plenty of people where you had a little convincing to do on this whole process. So what are some things, what are some of the maybe pushback that you get from people that come into this and say, okay, I think I kind of want to learn, apparently this is working, but then they kind of bump up against something. What's usually happening?
Well, I still remember the young man who came in, and he was, grumpy, and he sat there and he had a scowl on his face, and I talked to him a little bit, and he said, well, my doctor said I need to be here and I don't want to be here. And so I, asked him to just sit it out for 2 sessions. Well, he's now support group leader, and
Right.
he
Believer.
he saw some things that intrigued him. Not a lot of people. Occasionally we'll have people who say, I'm not a goal setter. Goals aren't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the important thing to understand about that is that it doesn't have to say a goal. I mean, do you want to have a change in your life?
Mm-hmm.
There are many ways you can tell yourself that doesn't incite the reaction, the negative reaction.
Right.
Some people,
I would think when you go back and you ask that person who says, I don't want to do that, like, what did you ever make a change in your life?
yeah,
What did you do? Right. Let's just think about that. Like, can we frame it in that language if this is better for you?
exactly. Or what have you always wanted to do and never gotten around to do it, or
Yeah.
been able to focus on it, do it.
Right.
And some people just resist the structure.
Yeah.
Because it is a structured approach.
Mm-hmm.
And we lose some people at the very beginning who don't give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
overall,
such a good, it's a good practice if somebody shows up, that's a big step for a lot of people, right? It's like a really big step. I mean, he was kicking and screaming. I didn't want to come. My doctor said I had to be here. Maybe his care partner said he needed to come. But I think the value of saying, hey, you can do this on your terms, and just sit here, just give it a second. You don't have to participate. You don't have to come in, do all that stuff, but check it out. And I think that they get to make the decision, right? There's empowerment in deciding, okay, I'm going to do that. I like this. I want to do this, instead of somebody forcing you. It's pretty amazing to get someone forced in there, right? Anyway, so that's really good.
It's a big step just to come and sit.
Yeah. And so it sounds like there have been some, changes over the years with the program. You said you initially started, it was 9 months. Now it's 4 months. Have there been any big changes to the program from when you started? And when was the first time that you actually ran people through a full program?
It was in 2013.
Okay, great. So a lot of people through.
Yeah. So, what was your question?
Well, I was just wondering, like, what sort of changes
Sure.
that has made, and then and why? Like, what did you learn over this time that has been allowed you to create more value for the participant in a shorter amount of time?
Well, the first one is a kind of a recent change, and that is we were able to work with the university, the Marshall School, which is the MBA online program at the University of Southern California, who helped us turn the in-person program into a virtual program. And their assistance really helped us design it in the new virtual program in such a way that it has become more effective, in our opinion, than the in-person. So that's made a choice for the future easier, because we can focus on that. It also allows us to have a broader reach and extend our reach to the underserved or the rural communities, and also internationally. So that's been a nice expansion, potential expansion.
Yeah.
We've also really changed the role of facilitators, and they are truly guides on the side now and not sages on the stage. And we cut back presentations, and we have a learning management system with materials for the participants to review before each session. So they've done some reflecting, and they've done some reading or watching videos. So they come with a basis of understanding, and then we work it deeper and apply it to the person individually. So that's a big change. Initially, we felt we had to impart all of the basic information on Parkinson's and then the other stuff. Now, the Davis Phinney Foundation has just such an amazing array of information on your website. I mean, you can study for a year and not finish it.
Right.
So, we don't try to compete with that. I mean, you do a fantastic job, and other organizations do as well. So we try to kind of stay in our own little niche.
Yeah. And I mean, it's great, you're doing something in person that cannot be done by the soul, right? Like you can't anybody can read at any time, right? They can read it, they can take in information at any time, but the real value is these groups of people and the facilitator that are talking to each other and, working through some of these issues. Yes. So that's great.
We've tried to really keep the information up to date on an annual basis so that there's, new information, because so much is coming out for, in the area of Parkinson's and neuroplasticity and research and clinical trials. So I think those are the main areas of making it better.
Okay. All right. Let's get into specifics about it. It's PD Self, but can you talk about who the program is for? And then we'll go through like the goal, how long, how many people, all those kinds of things. So let's talk about first, like who is the perfect person for this program?
The perfect person for this program has been diagnosed in the last 3 years, is interested in coming because they want to master their disease, and they're willing to put in the effort and time to do the reading, and hopefully would be accompanied by their care partner.
So the care partners, and they take it together, same content, same groups, same everything?
Same. Yes, although we have each exercise also has, or I would say 80% of the exercises have one that's a parallel one for the care partner. So we take the same principles and the care partner works on their perspective. Mm-hmm. And the PWP works on theirs, so that's another area that we've made the program better, because we did not do that initially. But it's clear that the care partner has equal learning and other needs and desires to be more effective. So,
right.
Yeah. Let's see.
How many people are in each group?
35 people in the group, and out of the 35, I would say that 1/3 are probably care partners and 2/3 PWPs.
Okay, great. And do you sort of does the leader, you call them a guide now? What do you call them?
We still call them facilitator. Yeah, it's not. Okay. It's a facility. We have 2 facilitators for each program, and one is a healthcare practitioner of any kind, really, who has familiarity with Parkinson's, and the other is a PWP who's been through the program, and we do a pretty extensive training for facilitators. So that's the team. The program meets every 2 weeks for 4 months.
Every 2 weeks
there is one pre-meeting,
and is it Like, how is it geographical? Do you clump people that are in a local area, even though it's online, or how does that work?
We're honoring the local areas that have strong local support. So for instance, this year, Milwaukee and Phoenix, Richmond, and Houston will be the local areas giving the program, but they will also receive regional participants who are assigned to their group from the larger region surrounding their local location, which actually makes us kind of hybrid. We are partially local and partially not local.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the desire to have the local piece? Was there a hybrid in-person piece to this, even when you went online, or was that just the hope that there could be?
No, because we always felt that there was still the threat of COVID in some form or a variant. And we didn't have the resources to do both at the same time. So chosen. And also because we were getting good feedback about the effectiveness of the Zoom. And it in fact surprised us that relationships could be established as well as they were and continue even, after the program is over.
Right. So that's good. Well, I mean, some people, I guess, if they are in a local community and they're Richmond and they're like, oh, well, I live over here, maybe we could get together for coffee, they could do that. But it's not excluding people that, aren't in Richmond and still want to be part of the program.
Exactly. And I think some of the program starts this year in January, second week in January. And I think some of the local programs will have a welcome meet and greet for those that are local. Probably try to do something similar for those who are regional, but it would just be on Zoom.
Right.
So everyone would get a meet and greet.
Yeah. Right.
No.
So that it's twice a month for 4 months. And you have I'm sorry,
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Great. And you have a learning management system. Everything is like in a hub where people can get all the materials and all of that kind of stuff. What happens after the program?
Well, we have a big graduation ceremony, and often people talk about their, path through the program and what their plans are going forward. And we have a number of groups who continue to meet. We have a couple here in Denver that's been meeting. One group is a dinner group with 4 couples, and they've been meeting for 4 years.
Oh, wow, that's so great.
We have one that's been meeting for 8 years, who was people who were part of the original intervention group.
Wow.
And then we have some, there's a women's group. So they are all kind of informal in the sense that we don't, and the staff doesn't organize anything for them. It's kind of, they support themselves and pre themselves. We tried at one point to have an alumni association, but it was a structure that we were trying to impose on something that had to be organic.
Right. Wow, that's really great though.
But there is a real sense that they've been on this path together, and they've learned together and grown together, and they want to stay together, and they're going to be together.
Yeah. It's so, gosh, the value of having somebody along the similar path, diagnosed around the similar time. And it's it's so great. How much does the program cost?
Nothing. It's a free program.
Thank goodness for funders.
And thank goodness for funders. Yes.
Yes. Is there a place where people can sign up, or should I share that later?
No, they can. The registration is open for January.
Oh, great.
We have lots of people registering. So if they're interested to sign up while there's still spaces.
Great.
There will be 3 programs in the Denver area, and then another 4 elsewhere. So at 35 participants each. And we have participants coming from the Middle East and Israel. We, in fact, have a program in Israel now this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And, from Europe, and I think there's one from Africa and around. So some of them will be interspersed into the various groups.
Oh, that's so
They
great.
can sign up by going to our website, pdself.org.
Okay.
And there are instructions on the landing page on how to register.
Okay, great. And I'll definitely share those links with our community, and also, our social and email, and with this video. So I'd love to hear, we've heard a couple of stories, but a couple of maybe of the stories that really stand out for you, for people that have gone through the whole program, and the behavior change, or maybe the lifestyle changes that you've seen from some of those people.
Well, one person comes to mind who is a guitarist, who's a very experienced guitarist, and in fact has performed at Carnegie Hall. And as his Parkinson's developed, he was not able to use his hands in the same way. And so he stopped music, and found that when he stopped music, he stopped seeing the people he was used, his friends and group, and then began to withdraw. And he ended up in PD South, and made a real turn, decided that he was going to do something that he didn't think he could do, which was to play at his daughter's wedding. So with the encouragement of others, he began exercising his fingers and working at it. And he finally was able to play a song on his guitar, and he composed a song as well. So
Wow.
he sang and played at his daughter's wedding, which was for him, kind of a moment of his lifetime. So
Oh my gosh, yeah.
it's kind of
Absolutely.
achieving something really special. Another woman who had some disability was able to exercise and get the working of her left leg back into functional form, and felt that it was the encouragement of the group that allowed her then to achieve the next goal, which she had in front of her, which was to fill out the disability form, which she was totally overwhelmed with, and counseled her and supported her and helped her. And she filled out the form, got her disability, and her father, who was her care partner and attended the group, was able to see that his daughter was able to turn her life around and restructure it. And because she had her leg is functioning again, that meant that she could swim and bring her boys swimming. And also, should they have an accident of any kind, she could be there to assist them. And she said that feeling of being able to do that by herself was just awesome.
Oh, yeah.
She
And also the other piece of that is so sweet is that her dad was her care partner, and they went through the class together.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's an important thing for people to know. It's not just maybe your spouse or your partner. You can be a friend. It could be a family member, a neighbor, like somebody who just does,
Yes.
who loves you.
Yes, exactly. And now with virtual, we have some cases where people have actually separated and are in two cities, but they can come to the group together.
Oh, that's so great. Well, that is very exciting. Well, I am so glad that you took the time to share PD Self with us today. And I'm excited to share with everybody and let them know about the program and get people to sign up, because it really sounds like an incredible experience for people.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It just means a lot to us. And I think that we are definitely a complement to what they can get from you at Davis Phinney. I think there are a lot of things that can be both can be experienced, really.
Right?
Yeah,
We're better together.
yes.